by the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, in the last, 12 hours by the time this video gets out, even less than that. And so that's a recent decision, and what that means for the market, the new evidence it's given us in terms of the market direction. I will also be discussing the fact that Bitcoin is in an uncertain position right now. There is a sufficient amount of evidence to claim that the bottom is in. There is also a sufficient amount of evidence to make a claim that the bottom is not in. And so we're in that kind of middle ground, and we have been in that middle ground for, the last couple of months, and I'm sure people are very frustrated by that. But we need to get into that and discuss that in depth here today, as well as our buying plan. Let's get into it, guys. I would also quickly like to add that the VIP group is now reopened. If you're interested in getting trading signals in exchange for a fee for a 3-month plan, you can do that. The signals have been extremely profitable. We're going to be posting the results on the 13th of November, which is about 2 weeks from now. So again, if you're interested in joining the VIP group and getting access to those signals, you can do so using the links in the description and the pinned comment. Cheers. So Bitcoin pushed up quite a lot in the last, few weeks here as we led up to the FOMC decision. There's a lot of hype around it. A lot of people expecting or potentially expecting a pivot from the Fed and going towards 75 basis points. We said that wasn't going to happen. It did not happen. The market data did not reflect that. And so we have seen, as you can see in the shorter term chart here, a bit of a correction. We broke below that solid line, triangle support line. We're going to delete it now because it's not entirely relevant anymore. But we have actually formed a new support on this dashed line. And this is why this kind of, goes into what I said before in the introduction of this video. It's so uncertain right now, guys. It's really is so uncertain. We broke a triangle, we formed a new triangle immediately. Obviously, what we can say for sure is that 20.8K, the top of this red resistance box, is critical on a daily candle. If we close a daily candle above that, that's going to be a buying plan activation, because that would be a close not only above a major resistance zone, as you can see 20.8K's major resistance at the top of that red box there, but also it would be a close within the bull market support band. And generally speaking, when we close within that bull market support band, this orange band here, which is a critical level, right? When we close within that, generally speaking, we move through it. We haven't seen a close at it yet. And so there's no kind of evidence at this point in time, no hard evidence to suggest that we move upwards further on Bitcoin. But if we do get that close above 20.8K, that would be good. That would indicate a swing to the upside. And it would also indicate a start of our buying plan, a start of our buying on Bitcoin. Look, if we're looking at our buying plan now, and I know I reiterate this every video, but it is worth reiterating, right? We have 3 scenarios, all of which give us a good average price on Bitcoin. As I said, multiple times here, I'm a believer in the middle scenario. I think that will play out, but we have to be prepared for all scenarios here because, my prediction could be wrong. Right, that's very important to know, and that's why I have a buying plan. In case I'm wrong, which could very well happen, we have a plan that secures us in both scenarios. So 20.8K, 50%, if we close a daily candle above that, that's a 50% buy of our portfolio. So we are really looking at 20.8K, and we're very close to getting above it in terms of the actual price itself. We're at 20.3 right now, but as of right now, we've been unable to break above it in any meaningful way on the daily channel, and that's due to the fact that there's major resistance there. And it's not only Bitcoin, right? This is not exclusive to Bitcoin. The S&P's at major resistance as well, and the S&P's at its own bull market support band. And this is stuff we've covered in previous videos. We're not going to get into it too much here because we've already covered it. But what I will say is this: the 75 basis point hike, it has led to a rejection from 20.8K, and it stands to reason that we will go further down. But the only thing that kind of confuses me a bit about Bitcoin right now, I think it's confusing everyone, is the fact that the market likes to react to what it sees in the future. So if there is a pivot coming, right, which we have evidence to assume it would come, right, because a pivot doesn't necessarily mean they decrease interest rates. It means that they, it could just mean they lower the magnitude of the rate hikes. And as per next month in December 14th, we're seeing the next FOMC decision. We're seeing that the probability for a 50 basis point hike in that decision, as opposed to a 75 basis point hike, is actually 61%. So that's bullish. Okay, that's undeniably bullish. And this is where we get into the confusion about Bitcoin right now. It's like we've seen a 75 basis point hike, that's bearish, but right now the market is expecting a 50 basis point hike in the next one, so that's bullish, right? So that's why we haven't seen a dramatic price action shift here. We've seen people be, disencouraged in the short term, which led to that short term drop, but ultimately they're looking at the longer term picture and they're thinking, okay, well, next month it's going to go down. Next month there's going to be 50 basis point hike. It's 50 basis point hike instead of 75. So maybe next month will be good. And that's why we're not seeing a dramatic dump to the downside right now, like we would have been seeing in the last FOMC decision, where there was still a high probability of 75 basis points in the next one. So, what I will say is this, and we can get into the longer term structure because that's ultimately what I want to talk about. What I will say is this though, the S&P itself, and this is something we can be concrete about, we can be, fully confident in this. The S&P 500 itself is very unlikely to bottom out until rates are actually going down, which could be deep into the next year, right? So that's separate from Bitcoin, though. It's very, very, much worth noting. The S&P and Bitcoin don't move together perfectly. And we saw it in November last year. Bitcoin topped out in November. S&P topped out in January. By the time the S&P topped out, Bitcoin was down 40%. Could very well reverse and happen to the downside. Bitcoin could be up 40% by the time the S&P bottoms. And so I'm not looking at the S&P as a direct piece of evidence for Bitcoin as to when it will bottom or not, because they can bottom out at very different times. And we do have evidence here. We've got this orange line, which represents interest rates, and we've got the blue line here, which represents the price of the S&P. If we look at the pink lines represent the major bottoms on the S&P throughout history. What you'll notice is that every single time there, out of the 6 times, every single time, the S&P has only bottomed out when interest rates have been going down. So again, we have a lot of evidence to suggest, in fact, every piece of evidence suggests that the S&P is not bottomed yet, and it won't bottom out anytime soon until as rates actually start to decrease, which again will be deep into 2023. And so the S&P 500 right now isn't much help to us. The S&P 500 and traditional markets, we can be very confident that they're going to go down further, but they're not helping us because it doesn't help us determine what happens with Bitcoin. This, of course, is a cryptocurrency channel, and we need to look at what happens with Bitcoin here. Now, we do have evidence for a Q4 bottom. In fact, we have very much evidence for a Q4 bottom based on the 4-year cycle theory. We've gone over that multiple times in the past. The 4-year cycle theory, which I predicted the top with in November 2021, predicts a bottom in Q4. We have not seen a Q4 bottom yet. But other than that, there is a lot of evidence to say, and again, this is where we get into the uncertainty, and this is why our buying plan is so important. There is a lot of evidence to say that the bottom's already in for Bitcoin, or the bottom, will be in very, very shortly, or it's even already in June. And one of those things is stochastic RSI on the monthly chart. What we can see is that stochastic RSI, once it drops below that red horizontal line, generally speaking, we stay below that line for a period of 500 days in 2015, 300 days in 2018, and 300 days in 2022. But more importantly, that horizontal red line of the stochastic RSI lines up with the horizontal red line in the price action. You can see we have a horizontal level in 2015. When we drop that level in 2015, we actually drop below that red line at the same time in 2015, right? The point is, looking at this chart, right, this is the point. I don't need to go too deep into explaining it. The point is this. This chart suggests that we've already dropped below the horizontal support level that we generally see in bear markets for Bitcoin, right? It suggests that the horizontal support level we saw in 2015, for example, was at 325 USD. It was at 6,000 in 2018, 5,900, sorry, and it was at 28,000 in 2022. And so it already suggests, this chart already suggests that we've already seen the final capitulation for Bitcoin. And what we're seeing right now, as per this chart, is actually the rounding out that we generally see in bear markets. So a lot of people right now, including myself to a certain extent, kind of think that the horizontal line is actually right now, and we need to see one more capitulation. That's kind of a general consensus of the market. Most people are bearish. But it very well stands to reason that the horizontal line could have already been lost, and we've already seen the capitulation, in which case the 4-year cycle theory would be wrong, and in which case we would have already bottomed out on Bitcoin, right? I want to briefly interrupt this video to talk about the BitGet exchange. Now, the BitGet exchange has 5 times lower fees than Binance, which is commonly referred to as the cheapest exchange in the cryptocurrency market. It's also non-KYC or voluntarily KYC, so you can stay true to the fundamental values of cryptocurrency, one of which being anonymity, of course. It's also got a security fund in there, so if you lose your funds by fault of the exchange or by personal fault, you can make a claim and actually retrieve your funds back. On top of all of this, if you sign up using my referral link, you can get access to exclusive discounts and rewards. This is the best exchange on the cryptocurrency market, and I use it personally, and so should everyone at the Wolves of Crypto YouTube channel. Now, if you're interested in actually learning how to trade for yourself, you can check out the Crypto Academy via the website link in the description below. This is a course developed by myself and Megaworld Crypto, a 10-unit course taking you through every single step from step 1 to step infinite about how to become a trader. Go ahead and check that out and chuck us an email at cryptoacademycourses@gmail.com, and we'll get back to you with the full information and payment information if you're interested. Thanks guys for watching the advertisements. Let's get back into the video. So that's one piece of evidence, but then adding on to that, if we go to something like the CBBI, which is the Collins Bull Run Bitcoin Index, and we can bring that up right now, we can see that this is already calling for the bottom as well. Now, this is an indicator that uses basically all the traditional methods of finding a Bitcoin top and bottom. Keyword traditional, they might be invalid, but they are certainly what has worked in the past. It's kind of saying, hey, Bitcoin's bottom's already in. So there's 2 pretty strong pieces of evidence, and that's price cycle top and stuff like that incorporated in this. 2 pretty strong pieces of evidence that the Bitcoin bottom's already in, as well as the fact that we're consolidating on support for a long period of time in what seems like a double bottom structure, or what could be a double bottom structure. To act like there's no evidence for Bitcoin's bottom being in is ridiculous. But to act like there's no evidence for Bitcoin's bottom not being in is ridiculous as well. And so this is where we leave ourselves in a middle ground here, which we don't really know what's going to happen. I'm sorry to be so vague, but we really don't, and I personally don't as well. What we can see as well, if we're looking at a weekly chart on Bitcoin, we can see Bollinger Bands are very well compressed. We still haven't seen the major move that everyone has been expecting for a long period of time, right? Bollinger Bands are very, very compressed right now, which means we're going to be seeing a major move very soon. It's like, I use the analogy a lot, when the Bollinger Bands are compressed, it's like holding a beach ball under the water. You can do it for a certain period of time, but when you eventually let go, which you have to do to get out of the pool, it will come up, and not only will it come up to the top, but it will also bounce out a little bit when it comes up. So that's potentially what's going to happen for Bitcoin, to the downside of the upside. I think that all in all, and looking at something like the weekly chart as well, again, just looking at it further, we generally see, we don't see a def cross on the weekly chart. We see in 2015 we got very close to it, in 2018 we got very close to it, but right now we're getting very close to it again. And generally speaking, in the past bull markets, we've actually just avoided that by going upwards just before the cross is meant to come in. So could we see that again? We very well could. This is where we get a little bit tricky for Bitcoin right now. Again, bull market support band, we're still below it. It's like we're in the middle of two scenarios. We're still below all of the critical levels that would indicate that the bottom is in, but we're not in the middle of a drop that would indicate the bottom is not in. So we're in the middle. We're in an indecisive spot. And this is why my videos recently have been very vague, because what am I meant to say at this point in time? All I can say is this: all I can say is this: 4-year cycle theory indicates Q4 bottom. There's a lot of evidence though that says the bottom's already in. So all we can do at this point in time is really follow the buying plan, because there's no clear direction. There's no clear, concise 100% scenario, or even an 80% scenario. It's kind of just like 50-50 at this point. So the buying plan is the best thing, because when you don't know what the price is going to do, it's good to have a plan that allows you to adjust to all possible price action. I don't know what the price is going to do right now. I have a prediction, and my prediction is based on the 4-year cycle. I believe the trend is your friend until it ends, and so I have to, by obligation of my personal strategies in investing, I have to believe in the 4-year cycle theory. But from a technical analysis perspective in itself, I don't know what's going to happen. So this buying plan, you can pause the video and watch it right now and look at it right now, is the best possible reaction we can have to the market. It's very important to note, you don't make money by predictions. Predictions don't make you money. You make money by clicking buy and sell. You make money via reacting. So this is what I leave you with here today. This data here is a reactionary buying plan, right? This is what you need to be doing on a daily candle close for each of these scenarios to kind of get the best average price on Bitcoin right now. And with that, I'll say this: I'm going to step away for the most part until it's very interesting again from short-term price action analysis here, because there's not much to cover. We are still in an indecisive zone. I'll tell you right now, we will be in an indecisive zone until either 20.8k is lost on a daily candle, or we drop below this yellow dotted uptrending line that you see here stemming from a June lows. Until either 20.8k is broken above, or we drop below that dotted line, there really isn't much to talk about, because nothing really changes from a longer term perspective. The longer term perspective is still saying, I don't really know. That's what the longer term perspective is saying. In quotations, I don't really know. That's the longer term. So, with that, I'll say, I don't really know either. That's why I'm following the buying plan. I'm sticking by the 4-year cycle theory. Look, my prediction is still the same, right? But my prediction and my personal opinion can be different, right? My prediction is based on the fact that we can't just throw away macro trends, okay? And with that said, I would say it's probably slightly more likely we go down again, but I do understand there is a bunch of evidence to suggest that the bottom is already in. And that evidence is ranging from time frame to time frame, just like the evidence for the bottom not being in is ranging from time frame to time frame. So I'll leave you with this. I'm indecisive on Bitcoin right now. I don't know what's going to happen, but I can say this: the buying plan is the best thing to follow. I'm sorry for the repetitive videos recently. There simply isn't much to update on a macro scale, and that's why as of tomorrow, we'll be doing videos on different topics in the market other than where is the bottom, because there really is not much to say about it right now. I think everyone in this market will agree with me to the most part there. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I'm keen to catch you tomorrow for a fresh video, and have a good one. Cheers.